Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to take a look at this Hobart A200 commercial mixer. This comes from a local food manufacturer here. It is leaking oil out of this little Planetary thingy and apparently it won't go into second gear. So let's see if we can fix this thing. Of course we need a tour first. This thing is old, really old, and really heavy. I looked at the Hobart A200 and it looks like this model dates back to 1933 is when the earliest or first Hobart A200s were made. I don't have the bowl with me, but I don't need that to fix it or test it. Check out this old logo back here. This thing's got some really cool patina too. I don't know if this black with the green outline stripe on here is original or if somebody did that at some point in this thing's life. This switch right here, I'll even flip it for you. It's not plugged in right now, but like, look at this thing. Like, that is a serious switch. Very old school. And our transmission, it moves, but I did notice it is leaking some oil out of there as well. Then of course underneath here, we've got a nice drip of oil on our acorn nut there, and that gets worse as you wait longer. So can't have that dripping into the food in the bowl, right? I just rotated it here. Right here is our plate. I found a service manual for this thing, and that serial number is not even listed in the service manual. The service manual seems to only go back for machines dated to the 1950s. This thing might be pre-World War II, which is kind of insane to think about, but if I find any more info on this in the meantime, I'll put it at the end of the video or just kind of splice something in here. But if any of you know anything about these things, please let me know in the comments what that serial number means and where you got your information. We've got a nice service manual right here that we'll be using to kind of walk us through. I will put a link to this in the description of the video if somehow you came across this hoping to fix your own Hobart A200. But I will say it's not clear yet whether this thing is going to be very common or match up well with more modern A200 mixers. Let me scroll up to the top here. One thing I already noticed is that this mixer does not have that little safety cage right there. That cage kind of rotates and it's got a safety switch on it, so you can only run it when it's closed, so you don't get your fingers stuck in the mixer arm. So this one does not seem to have that at all, which is one more reason I think, yeah, this thing is probably really old, very early. Last thing to show you is the power cord. It's pretty old, wrapped in electrical tape in some sections, I think. Here, yeah, right here. Here's electrical tape wrap, and it looks like, yeah, probably shouldn't do that too much. I have not plugged this thing in yet. I have not turned it on. So let's get a baseline of what we're dealing with here. Okay, I believe it is switched off because it says on right there. So let's call that off. Let's see if anything happens. No, excellent. Now this is how this thing works. It kind of locks into place like that, and then got a nice little thingy going on in there. But it works great. Let's start in speed 1, and let's see what happens here. What do we get? Okay. That actually sounds pretty good. I hear a little bit of rattling inside, but overall, nothing bad. Sounds really good, actually. Okay, man, how long it took to slow down. It's got to be so much torque and momentum inside of there when it's running. Okay, let's try speed number 2. Okay, that works. And now let's try speed number 3. Oh yeah. Yeah, that is violent. You can make yourself some real good sourdough at that speed. Okay, I think I see it now. I want you to pay attention to how fast it's spinning at speed 1. So yeah, it spins. And now I want you to see how fast it spins at speed 2. It's exactly the same. And in fact, I should not be able to do this. You are not supposed to do this when this is running, and I can do that. Now, watch what happens at the very end if I go into 3. So you saw it kind of grab the next gear right there. And now we're in 3 and we're going real fast. So, third speed is working just fine. So either 1 or 2 is not going into gear. So we got to figure out why that is, see what's broken inside of there, and see if we can fix it. How about we go ahead and start by removing this transmission shift lever assembly. The service manual says to put it in speed 1 to remove it, so let's see if these come out. Yep, that one was nice. That one's nice. And yep, they're all nice, so we're going to be okay, at least at this part. Uh-oh. At this point, we should be able to just yank it out. That was easy. Ooh, nice and greasy. The grease actually looks pretty okay. Taking a look inside here, not really much to see, just a whole bunch of grease, I guess. I don't know. I think it's time to move to the top cover and start looking at that. Alright, so for transmission disassembly, we gotta start up here. We are missing 1 screw, so that'll make our life a little bit easier. Oh, this wants to come right off. Why is that? What is lifting that off? I don't know. So there we are. We've got some grease caps, some shafts and whatnot. Here's something mildly interesting. So I've got the shifter back in. If I put it on speed 1, it goes. But I noticed I can kind of do stuff like this with it. And I also noticed in trying to get this thing like locked so I could get these 2 nuts tight or loose or whatever, if I loosen this one, watch what happens when this is loose and I go in speed number 1. Suddenly it's a very low speed, but it's really neutral. There's no speed at all. So that's kind of interesting. And if you go back into 2, it'll grab it. If you come out, it'll let go. Go into 3, it'll do 3. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to move this thing to the floor to work on it at a certain point. That'd probably be a little bit nicer of a situation. I guess it kind of goes without saying, I am not the first person to be here, because this is all knurled up. This shaft was all knurled up. There's some signs here that somebody's taken this apart in the past. Did they fix it? Who knows? I guess we're about to find out what's going on inside of here. Now this one, oh, that's loose too. Okay, service manual says to remove a bearing retainer cap, but we don't seem to have a bearing retainer cap. Maybe this piece is 2-in-1 on the older models. Next, let's remove our twin bearing retainer. Okay, it's time to remove these nuts from our supposed transmission shaft and worm gear shaft. That one came loose. Can I get this one loose? Nope, not quite. Let's try the impact. See if this will zip it off. There we go. Perfect. And we'll probably have to run the die over this thread because it is in bad shape from whoever was here before. I couldn't get that off with my fingers. I had to get it off with the assistance of the drill, or impact. Right, next we have to remove the stop nut from the center shaft. And that is it 3/4 like down below? Yes, it is. Let's see if that comes off with the impact. Sure does. Very nice. Take the washer with us. And there's our bearing right there. We'll get to check all these bearings as we move on here. Okay, now it's time to remove the Planetary. We've gotten our acorn nut loose already, and then the other nut above it I was able to hand turn a little bit a little while ago. So let's see. It says to support the Planetary, so this might all come out. Loosen. Yes. There we go. Oh, yep. Yep, she's gonna come right out. Yep. How heavy is that gonna be? Let's see. Oh boy. There you go. Look at that. Planetary. So I've got this shield right here that could use a nice cleaning. And just checking this bearing here. This feels really nice. I don't think this will need to come apart, but I do believe there is an oil seal somewhere in this. Very nice, very quiet, very smooth. So I'll keep on moving. I'm going to put this nut back on here so I don't lose it. And I might as well keep the acorn friend with it. Of course, something's probably going to need to slide out of here at some point, but we'll worry about that later. Next on this shaft, we've got a key right here. We're supposed to remove that. There we go. There's the key. And then there is a spacer / seal up here, and we're going to try to remove that. But it doesn't feel like it's going to budge, and I might slice a finger open if I try too hard. So we're going to come back to that later. I'm sure once we're done upstairs here, maybe we'll be able to get that out more easily. All right, now it's time to get this cover off right here. We got 4 screws to start with. And now I want you to take a gear puller and pull this whole thing off. Might be able to get away with a slide hammer and putting these back in, potentially. Let's see what we can do here. So this is just part of my Harbor Freight slide hammer kit. Looks like this fits quite nicely here. If we take our slide hammer and screw it into there, we should be able to just kind of slowly work this way out. But if we're going to do that, we want to make sure we have as much thread engagement as possible so we don't strip anything. So I think what I'll do is I'll take one of the longer screws and just put that in as far as it feels good. And then I'll just give her a little yank here, see what we can get. Okay. Yep, so easy. Quite easy. Okay, maybe over here a little bit. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, so there's that. All right. Oh, geez. What a congealed mess. Jeez. I wonder if it's supposed to look like that. I don't know, should I stick my finger in it? Yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty good. I think that's perfectly acceptable grease for up here. Whoever worked on this put plenty of grease in there. Let's take a moment and check these bearings for a good feel. This one here, I can stick my finger in there and kind of hold the assembly. This feels really nice. I see no issues with that bearing. This bearing right here, again, feels very nice, no issues. This one, I feel like it shouldn't be this easy to turn, but I don't feel any crunching, I don't feel any play in it. One thing it wants us to check for is shims like this. Next we're going to work on center shaft removal, so we need to remove this spacer here. I figure a magnet would work great for that, and I was right. Now we are to remove the bevel gear and roller clutch. Whatever that means. I guess I'll just lift up and see what happens. Oh geez. Now it says that older units have a key style center shaft. I think that's what this one is. I see this key right here, so let's take that key out. And that looks like a It actually literally looks like a keyhole. It's kind of funny. Yeah, it looks like this key might come out or something, and then maybe it meshes with the gear kind of like this, and then it kind of takes hold in an interesting way. Remove the upper clutch gear and bearing. By the way, it says to reference a different manual for I guess this style of machine. Looks like this gear powers the accessory drive right here. I believe I may have found a problem. Yeah, see, that there don't look right to me. This looks like a bent, broken piece of metal. That does not look right to me. Let's take some of this and move it out of your way, because I can't get the camera much higher. Okay, looks like we have one more gear to come out. Yep, that's coming out. Looks like we've got a bronze bushing in there. Okay, one thing that just happened is that spacer I mentioned earlier, that just came out from down below. Looks like we've got some nice scoring or a nice scratch on this part of the spacer, so that might need to be replaced. Can't get a good seal with something like that. I don't know what we're running into because I can't freaking see anything. Alright, I don't think I was supposed to do that, but I did it. That one's out now. See if the other one will come out too. It will. Cool. Alright, that one's out. Maybe this key comes out. It does. Okay, so now that that's out, does that let this slide at all? This bronze guy? Yes. There we go. There's like a little spring clip thing inside of here. Let me rotate that. See, I can kind of push that in. So that's really interesting. I think that broke. I think that might be our problem, or at least one of our problems. Does this thing come off? Okay, well, all right, there's a key. Oh, okay. That's promising. Let's not lose this key. This is our shift fork kind of thing. Very interesting. So I'm reading these disassembly instructions, and there's like a point where this front accessory guy down here, sorry, my hands are so greasy, I don't want to get them on the camera. There's a point where this guy's just not there anymore, and this is what I'm running into. So I'm going to go ahead and take those screws out and see if I can get that removed, if that makes any difference for me. All right, does this come off? Not easily. Let's try a dead blow. Yep, there you go. Loose-ish. Okay. Oh, jeez. That's gross. That's so gross. You can't see that, but what's going on down below is nasty. Okay, now this should come out. Almost. Yep. Okay, there we go. There is the center shaft. There's a bearing down here. It feels excellent. So that bearing is good. So yeah, loosening this thing was indeed the key to getting the center shaft out. And then yeah, I was kind of grossed out by what came out. That's kind of down here, oily and separated. There's some more. Just lovely. Let's take a look inside here. Gross. Not cool. I think we should probably get that nice and clean and get some fresh grease in there, and that'll be a good starting point. Well, no, ending point. A good starting point is going to be removing all the grease from these guys and checking them, making sure they're all okay. Here's our center shaft that we just removed. I guess I'll show you what I was talking about with that weird metal clip thing. Yeah, it's right in here, and you can kind of take this pick, and it's like a spring-loaded type thing in there. Don't really know what's going on with that, or what that does, but this was one end of it right here that I've got on the pick. Now it's stuck to the pick. Get off of there. Yeah, that. I think that is supposed to be on there. So that's the first thing I'm gonna start researching, is that. Yeah, my service manual that I have, I don't think it covers this style of stuff going on here. Like this gear, that's not in there with that key. And then this is the shift assembly right here. This kind of goes up and down and moves something up and down. We're gonna get the grease off of that, and oh, there's a key. There's a key or something inside of there, so I'm gonna have to be pretty careful with the reassembly of this. And then this is the shaft that was closest to the front of the mixer, and then this is the shaft that was closest to the back. I think this one is what actually takes the power from the motor. You can see the teeth are kind of sideways right there. That's so it can mesh with the worm gear we saw inside of here. This is connected to your drive motor. It's a worm gear. These are the parts I already showed you earlier. That's our Planetary, and then that's our bearing cap with our bearings inside of it to keep our shafts straight. That's enough for today. Let's come back later. Well, it's time for one of the more gross parts of this now. We need to remove the old grease. So I've got this tray here. We'll just kind of set this on here and Alright, now that some of that dirtier work is taken care of, I'd like to check the bearings. Before, as you can imagine, I could not easily get to those bearings in that pool of grease. So now that we're in this stage, we're able to take our pick and we can just lift these bearings right out of here and just kind of feel them, see how they're feeling. If I felt any crunchiness or looseness in here, I'd be concerned, but I don't. This feels like a perfect bearing. So I like that one. I'll put that back. And then, by the way, underneath, maybe you'll be able to see it, we've got like little springs at the very bottom of these. So you got some spring pressure on your shafts when they're in the mixer. Now here's the other one. Let's take a feel for this one. This one feels the same as the other one. It's in great shape. So far, I've only found one bearing that I'm concerned about, and I'm not even that concerned about it. I guess real quick, while we're in here, I had mentioned I heard some rattling, and that's from the electric motor here. So let me turn this on. And yeah, I'm putting my hand over it to stop the grease from flying everywhere. But you can hear that rattling happening inside of there. And that's probably from the bearings inside of the electric motor. Coming around the back here, I want to see what it's going to take to replace this power cord. I didn't really show it up close before, but I'll show it right here. That's just the condition of the cord. It's like completely melted all around here, and it's cracked in certain places. Like that's bad. There's electrical tape right here. Looks fine up here, but you know, I think this was near something that was very hot, and you know, we don't see this style of cord anymore on things, so we need to replace this. I don't think it's safe to have that cord on here anymore. So we'll try to find out where these wires terminate, and to do that we're gonna have to remove this cover. I think it's these 4 screws, but I'll take off this little cap here first. This is probably for a bearing or something. I love that logo. It's a very cool vintage Hobart logo right there. Looks like we've got a little paper gasket too. And there you go. There's a nut It's greasy in there, so that's probably one of the bearings. Let's get these two off. Yeah, you can see that. Here's the power cord right here. And it looks like it's going completely underneath the, what do you call it? It's the armature or the rotor. I don't know very much about AC motors, and I need to work on that. Listening in here, we've got some squeakiness. That's probably the brushes against these things here. But anyways, that cord being all the way back there, that tells me we've got to pull this whole motor out to get access to where this cord terminates. So what I might do real quick is try cracking that bolt loose. I don't think I want to remove it completely, but I do want it loose. Stop the rotation slightly. I think that was it right there. Yep. Okay, she's loose. Let's leave it that way. So if I had to guess, it'd be these 4 screws, and then maybe this whole thing just slides right out. I think what I'll do is I'll take them out just a little bit, and then I'll see if I can, maybe I don't want them all out quite yet. I want them out a little bit. I want to see what happens when I start trying to yank this thing out as an assembly. So that might be good there. Yeah, this whole thing is moving as one. And if I look inside the transmission case, this whole thing is wanting to kind of move as one. So that to me says that if I take these all out, this whole thing should slide out. And it might be really heavy, but there's only one way to find out. Worst case, if I break it, there are used parts available. Maybe I do pull this cover and then I just pull the whole thing. Okay, now what happens? Okay, oh, I hope that wasn't bad. Because we can hang that off to the side. I'll show you the brushes later. I think I'll take my glove off for this part, because this should be handled with a clean hand. There it is. Okay, just took a little bit of convincing. Come out easy. And there you go. We've got it. Ooh, that bearing does not feel good. This might be our first bearing we need to replace here. There you have it. There's your rotor, I believe. It just occurred to me that maybe we need to disconnect the switch. That's silly. Of course we need to disconnect the switch. That's where the power cord goes. If only we could get the screwdriver in those dirty little slots. There we go. Clear out the slots. Allows us to get our screwdriver in. See if this comes off easily. It does. Very nice. Aha! And there's the electrical. Oh yeah, there's some crusty, nasty old stuff in here. Tell you what, bring you over here real quick. Again, good thing we're doing this. Our power cord connects right there. And you see that black wire? That is your hot 120 volt AC. The insulation is gone. And this is a non-earth ground appliance here. So this whole thing could just be a live wall outlet if you're not careful. I'll see if I can find a way to get an earth ground properly connected to this thing. When we go to put it back together, maybe I'll like drill and tap a hole right there or something and connect the cord that way. But for now, yeah, I'm going to be removing that. That'll get our power cord out. I also get a chance to clean this switch, and if you were curious, here's how this switch works. So right now we're in the off position, and what happens is this thing's going to kind of rock back and forth. So there's the on position. See, we're completing the circuit between the wall and the armature. And when we turn it off, it snaps it back real fast. And that's to prevent arcing, I guess. So pretty cool to see that old style switch in action. Very heavy duty. And if you look at the contacts there, I think they need to be cleaned. So definitely will do that. And here's the good stuff right here. This part right here, this is the commutator, based on some stuff I just looked up, and that is where the brushes touch. And there's our brushes. One of them is kind of out of the thing. You can buy these new, actually, and I think I might do that because obviously it is a wear item. If we take a look real close at that, the lighting's not very good, but there is wear on that contact surface. And of course, this is looking a little dirty, so we'll have to clean that up, make that real nice, and maybe the motor will be a little bit quieter. And speaking of quieter, I felt this bearing here. This bearing does not feel very nice. It's the worst feeling bearing I've felt so far in the mixer, so I'd like to replace that. And when you buy that bearing, it always comes with this bearing in here behind that spacer there. So I guess we'll just replace both the motor bearings while we've got the motor taken apart. Good news, everyone. We've got parts. These parts come to us from oldhobartmixerparts.com and oldhobartslicerparts.com. They did not sponsor this video. I just found them, and that's where I got the parts. First, we've got new bearings for the motor. We'll get that later. We also got brand new brushes for the motor as well, so that'll be cool. We've got a new seal for either the Planetary or the mixer thing or whatever. So we got both seals here for it. Got a new acorn nut, new felt washer, new gasket for the transmission lever. And then this little pin right here, that's for this guy. This is the part that we noticed is broken. And that's what I'm working on replacing right now. So off camera I got a little excited and started pushing this rivet through. You can see it right there. There's two of them on here. This is the one you want to start punching out. So I used a punch and a hammer, and that punch that I started it with is broken, so it's not long enough to get the pin all the way out. So now what I've got here is just a broken pick. So we'll see if we can complete the thing here. Okay, that's not quite good enough. And then I've just got some soft jaws on here for when I've done AN hose stuff before. Okay, improper use of a drill bit, but you know, it worked. And there it is, the broken control arm. So now, I guess it's time to put in the new control arm. Yeah, it looks like there's a small pin and spring right there, so we're going to want to make sure that sticks around. Okay, new pin. Now I know what that divot is for. Okay, that goes in great. Now let's see. Oh yeah, that should go in really nice. It started really nice. So now we'll just get our punch. Let's see if it goes in. Super nice. That sound means it's fully seated. Perfect. That was easy. And something pretty important that I almost forgot with the rivet for the control arm, I looked at the other side of the shaft where we had hammered it in. You know, we punched it in right there with that punch. And then I looked back here and I saw it was kind of protruding out a little bit. Now I've already started it here, that's why it looks kind of okay, but you're going to notice yours will be kind of protruding out a little bit. So what you do is you put the punch in the vise, kind of go opposite, and just kind of hold the shaft right on there. You're just going to take your hammer and lightly smash that rivet so that it's flat. And now it's fully installed. So now we're moving on to the motor bearing replacement. I don't know how to get this worm gear off. This is an interesting setup that I've never seen before. Oh, I get it now. It's just a lock nut. We have this clip that goes over. All right, how is that? This looks like one nut. I'll try and spin it off with the impact. Yep, there we go. Okay, then there's a big spring back there, so we gotta be ready for that to all come shooting out at us, potentially, or not. Okay, there's that nut. We'll put this clip back around it so we don't lose it, but we'll remember to take it off when we put it back, right? That's how that works. You got the little pin going through, probably to grab the threads or something. Okay. And this is a keyed shaft, so worm gear comes off. Okay, let's remember this. The opening side goes toward the rotor. Okay. And what's next? I gotta pull that key at some point. It would appear this key needs to come out, and there's spring pressure pushing this washer against the back of that key, so maybe I gotta kind of put the thing in something with a hole and then just push down and get the spring compressed so I can remove the key, and then everything will come out. Okay, I was kind of struggling to figure it out for a minute, and then off camera I got the key loose. I just took my needle nose and just grabbed it real lightly and kind of pried up like so. And now you can see everybody's wanting to come out. And, you know, we're doing metal on metal with those pliers, so we're being extremely careful. Anyways, now we have these guys loose. We have washer, spring, and then another washer. And let's remember, this key appears to be intentionally tilted up so that we are having something that the washer can kind of run into like that, right? Can get this guy easily. Yep, there it goes. It's a tight fit on that washer, that's for sure. Getting the slide hammer in there instead of using a bearing puller. Okay. Okay, that's working. Just gotta, yeah, that's better. Okay, that's out. And the grooved end goes toward the rotor. Now maybe this bearing will slide right off. Yes, perfect. Interesting. I've never seen a bearing where it's like kind of pushing out that way and then pushed in right there. I'm thinking this bearing is a little messed up. Maybe from 60 years of wear. Anyways, let's put that new bearing on. How about that? Of course, these new bearings are sealed, so we don't have to worry about greasing them. That's probably one big part of the downfall of this bearing. Actually, now that I think of it, all right, I'll put that on. We slide over. Yes, we do. Here, we'll put the washer back on. If it it's interested. Looks like we'll have to persuade it. Just some light taps. Alright, now what did we have here? We had spring. We had... Oh, this washer is keyed. Interesting. I don't know, how do you get this key back in? This is going to be interesting. Alright, this is super sketchy, but I thought about, okay, what do I have around here? And I've got these quick grip clamps or whatever. So, big wrench, so there's an opening so I get the key in, and then I push down the wrench to compress the spring, and now that key is fully seated in there. Now I'm a little nervous about undoing the pressure. There's one, and there's two. So, we'll just, hopefully nothing falls violently. There, perfect. And then that's just a piece of wood with a 1/2-inch hole drilled in it. So there we go. Now we've finally got our key back in, and it looks as sketchy as ever, so I'm going to get that worm gear back on, like, now. Okay, so that key is not fully seated. That seems to help. A little further. Not bad, not bad. Let's get our nut going again. I'm not sure what the heck you're supposed to torque this thing to. I'll try it by hand first. Okay, that's feels pretty tight. Since I can't grip it very easily, I'll just give it a few little persuasions here. I think that will be considered tight. We stick our little clip back on here. Alright, there's three things we gotta do with this back cover here. First is we gotta tap out this old bearing. I think we can do it like this. You're not really supposed to go on the inner race of a bearing to get it out, but that's just what we're doing, and it's working. So let's open up our jaws enough so we have enough room for this thing to come out. Plenty of room. She'll come right out. One more. There, she's out. Here's your old bearing. So it looks like you could grease the one side. Our new bearing is fully sealed, so I don't think we're going to be greasing anything. Let's flip this over. Let's see, what's a good way for it to sit? I should just set this on the table, but I don't feel like moving the camera. So we're going to go about it this way and be very careful. Here is the new bearing. I'll put it this side out so you can read what it says. If anybody ever wants to replace it or whatever. There it is. New bearing in place. Alright, second we've got the power cord. So let's get our flathead and undo this strain relief here. Let's loosen that up. Yep, there's that. And then maybe we can pull this through. Yep, we sure can. So there's our old junky cord. Let's see. Yeah, you don't want that inside. Anyways, let's get our new one. So here's the new one, and we'll go back to right here. This is how much length we need, so I'll just put this in until we hit right there. Okay, I've held that position with my left hand. Now the 105C marking right there. Give it a little extra. And now let's tighten that strain relief back down again. That's not going anywhere. Okay, third thing, the brushes. So the brushes are connected with some flathead screws, one there and one there. And the way the brushes work is they got these little springy thingies on them that kind of push them against the commutator. So let's get this one first, since it's closer to me. I'm not sure there's anything wrong with this old one, but let's put it next to a new one and see how long it is. Yeah, new one's a little bit longer. So I think what that is it's like the wear. Like this probably used to be as long as this new one until, you know, it got used enough. There we go. And then we'll just connect this where the old one was. Okay, there's one. I'll get the other one. Then as we put this back in, we'll just have to make sure we kind of push those back so we can get them to set on top of the commutator. Next, I'm looking at the agitator shaft seal. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going in with a punch from up above with a hammer, and we're just kind of knocking this out. Alrighty. Well, while we're dealing with that, let's try the Planetary. So I've already gotten this nut loose. You see it's double nutted. I just kind of looked real closely as I did this and made sure my socket was only on the top nut, you know. So now we can undo the bottom nut. And these nuts are different. You've got two little divots here, so it's kind of a interference fit with the threads. So we'll make sure that goes on top. We've got a washer. We've got this gear. And then we've got a key. And then maybe this will slide right out. Yep, sure does. There's a little spacer inside of there. You can see, I can move it around with my finger. I think what I'm going to try to do first is I'm going to put it off center and then use a punch and a hammer to knock out the top bearing. See if that works. Oh yeah, super easy. There we go. And there's that spacer. So now we can work on using that spacer to knock out the bottom one as well. You gotta put this in the vise and go about it that way. Yep, I've had a bearing and race driver set the whole time. We're going on the inner race of the bearing, so I might damage it to get it out, because we can't hit the outer race, because it's just not how it's going with us today. Okay. Okay, that got it moving. Yep, that'll come right out. Okay, seal is out. I will show you. There she be. Yeah, they do seals a little differently now, eh? Let's see. Does that bearing still feel good? Not really. Yeah, one more thing I'm doing before I do the reassembly of the agitator shaft is I want to take off the ring gear here, because this is the part that really should be clean. So I want to take it off so I can get a really nice clean, you know, kind of scrub it. These screws are pretty tight. I got one of them loose with the screwdriver, but the other one I couldn't quite. So then I got my impact with a flathead and just kind of oh boy, I'm never going to find that. All right, let's get this agitator shaft put back together. I've been messing up some terminology throughout this video. I'll try to add subtitles when I mess it up. It's important to get this right though, because you have the agitator shaft and the planetary shaft. The planetary shaft is actually in the center of the mixer, whereas the agitator shaft is this one here. This is the one that actually goes in on the offset here. So we're going to do this in the reverse of what we did for the disassembly to a point. I've cleaned up these parts. There was a nice thick layer of stuff here. This was filled with stuff, and then this little keyway here was also completely filled with, you know, 70, 80 years of stuff. So it's a good idea to clean it up. If you recall, we got the seal and bottom bearing out last, so we're going to put those in first. So this is our new bearing. It's going to get tapped right in, and then once that's in, we'll do the seal. Yeah, like I said, I've had this bearing race driver kit the whole time, so we might as well use it, especially for the reassembly. Disassembly, if you're not reusing the bearings, it really doesn't matter too much. Alright, well, we will lightly tap here. Yeah. Okay, super easy. But the seal is what we're going to truly need to be very careful with. So here's our new seal. It's going to go this side out with the open side going inside. These are very similar to what you would find on automobiles for like crankshaft seals. These can be kind of tricky. You definitely want to make sure you're going in straight, or you're going to be in trouble. And I'm not going to be in too much trouble because when I bought these bearings, they came with another seal, even though I had already bought the seal. So that feels pretty good. We're not quite straight, so anyways, now we can get the spacer and the upper bearing back in. I don't really know which way the spacer goes. I don't think it'll matter too much since we are now using these bearings that are fully sealed. I think there might have been some feature in there to help deal with well, that was easy. Yeah, there really ain't much to these bearings. They just drop right in. It's almost too good. It makes you wonder if the bearings will spin under load. Makes you wonder if I should add some super glue or something, or Loctite. I don't know. Alright, let's send this shaft through. See how it fits. I just popped that bearing right out, of course. So we just gotta make sure we're centered. There we go. And we can get the key in. That's gonna go like this with the curved sides kind of like that. I don't think we go in this way because we want the curve. Or, oh, good catch. I gotta flip that upside down so I can be one with that geometry in the slot there, or keyway. Then we set our gear on. I think it went this way. Yep, that makes sense, because then our washer can sit right there. Our first nut can get spun on, and the second nut can get spun on. That feels great. This part of the shaft, this step right here, this is what bottoms out on that inside bearing, and that's what keeps it kind of in place. So there's really no need to worry about that, because it kind of does that, you know. However, I really don't like how loose that bearing is in there. I guess what I could do is I can add some super glue to the outer race of the bearing. And what that'll do is it'll kind of glue it in place and keep it from potentially spinning inside of the casting here. Because if you got the outer race of the bearing spinning inside of there, it's going to result in a bunch of wear, and then this part will be completely ruined. So that's just a call that I would like to make. Might not be necessary, but this is my repair. Alright, so I got my super glue. Mine's kind of old, so it wouldn't come out of the tip anymore, so I just stuck a Q-tip in there, right in, and then I bent it, and then just kind of, while the bearing was further down in the bore, I just kind of put some glue up top so I didn't have to remove the seal, and now that bearing is sticking in there. So the outer race is glued to the wall, so the next person who rebuilds this will want to find me and kill me. So anyways, one thing I almost forgot is we want to put a little bit of grease on this seal here, otherwise it'll get all messed up. So I bought 3 tubes of this stuff, Mobile Grease FM 222. Amazon had the best price in this particular situation. So I'm just going to take a very, very small amount, just kind of run that along the seal here. And that way our seal will be happy. So you have the agitator shaft, seal is going to ride right around here, so we'll just kind of clean up the excess when we're done, and we'll just stick that in there. Very nice. And over here we'll stick that spacer back in. We will take that same Q-tip because there's still some uncured glue on it. I'm just going to put a little bit on the outer race bore here or whatever. So there's a little bit of glue for the bearing. Now we'll just do that, kind of wiggle it until we're in. That feels good. Then we'll put our key back in. And we'll put our gear back on. And we'll put the washer back on. And we'll take that first nut and we will go ahead and tighten that first nut. That's tight. Then we'll take this one and we'll hit it with the impact a little bit. And remember, this one's got these two little divots in it, so it's an interference fit, so that's how we get a little bit of locking action. And then I think I'm going to modify this and open it up to be a 19/3/4 so I can get that under there, because what you want to do with these double nuts is you want to try to loosen the bottom one while you're tightening the top one, and that's how you get that locking action with the double nut. So I'll try and modify this real quick. I just got a Milwaukee die grinder, battery powered, with a little bit in there. Maybe that'll open her up. Do it away from all this stuff though, right? Yeah, there we go. Now it fits. So now I can get my ratchet on there, and I can try to tighten the top nut while I try to loosen the bottom one. And there, I just felt them kind of come into contact a little bit, so that's really good. So yeah, this thing is set, ready to go back in. And then I cleaned up our ring gear here just with some dish soap and a soft bristle brush, and then dried it off with compressed air. So this is ready to go back in. By the way, to get it out, it was kind of stuck on there. I was able to take a seal puller and just kind of convince it, and it just fell right off. There's no dowel pins or anything holding this on, so it should just, you shouldn't even need that. It should just need to hit it with a hammer. I just didn't hit it hard enough, I guess. And I don't think it matters, but I marked the front of it so I could put it back on how it came off. I think now would be a half decent time to get the rotor back in. So the way we'll do that is we'll just slowly guide it in. And we'll have that bearing seat itself. There we go. Very nice. Now it's time to get that back cover back in. So we're going to need to connect our power wire, of course, first. Maybe we just run this through and then put it on. So this snuck underneath the Okay, I got the wire through after some finagling and undoing the strain relief on the back cover there. So now we got to do our wires. So let's start up here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the earth wire and I'm just going to loop it in right there with the existing screw that holds the switch in. I think that'll work just fine. And then these guys, I'll cut them a little bit shorter so that earth one has some extra wire. We'll strip them. And then we're going to put some nice ring terminals on here, like these guys. This will fit nicely into the switch, then we don't have to worry about bare conductor, you know. All right, now I'm going to take a tool that's not for this, but it's going to work for what I'm trying to do. I just want to crimp the thing, so just want to grab it and jam the crimp part into the conductor. So there's like a little bit of mechanical something there. Doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to solder them. Take our hot iron and we'll just put that there. And we're going to wait until that kind of oozes itself in to the crimp area when it's hot enough. Alright, got that in. It was kind of tight, had to force it a little bit. The wires, there's not much room for them back there. I wasn't happy with how I did the earth ground connection on the switch, so as you can see I've redone that. I drilled a hole on the right side, and that's where it is now. We're nice and securely attached with a screw that's kind of not very tall. It's pretty shallow, so it doesn't protrude past this switch. Because that's what I was getting before when I had it tucked under there. The cover, it didn't want to sit completely flat, so I relocated it. I tried going there first because that's where my wire was, but behind this, the casting is, there's a fillet, and you can't get a flat, it's not flat back there basically, so you can't just tighten a nut and a bolt and have it get secured. So I thought I'd slit it open and that didn't work, so I just had to bite the bullet, move over there, and then I had to extend my earth ground wire right here. And you can see I used a white wire, and that's a pretty big no-no in general. It should have been a green wire, but I didn't have any scrap green wire that worked. But anybody with half a brain can look and see, well, it's attached to that green wire on the power cord, so everything's fine. Nothing wrong. And then I cleaned the contacts on the switch with CRC, and also I never knew it said off before, but then I took a pick and kind of moved all the crap out of the way, and now it says off. So cool. We can take our power cord and slide it through the strain relief and get that right. Did I get it? I think I got it. I think it's all coming back to me now. We've got this spacer here, right? And then we had this washer, and then a double nut. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Sounds about how it did before. Everything turns smoothly. What do you say we give it some power and see what happens? So what I've done here is I've brought my variac downstairs because I don't really want to take the risk of frying something really bad if I really messed it up. So if I turn this on, have that on 0, and turn the variac on, when I increase the voltage out of the variac, it should move. So here we go. All right, I heard the AC hum out of there, so something was happening. Let's see. Yep, there it goes. All right. That sounds all right. Not bad at all. Just give you a little close-up of that. Might as well. Bring it back up. Excellent. That's 70 volts, so not bad. That's 120. Yeah, I think there was a lot more rattling before, and I don't hear that as much anymore. Okay, that works. I'm quite happy with that. Very nice. So in doing this, I decided to buy a few more parts actually. And one of those is new keys for the transmission shaft here. So I was just hanging out with this shaft here and I kind of noticed there's quite a lot of play in here. So I don't know if that's supposed to be that way or if it could be worn keys. I don't know, can you see that? Yeah, I think that's visible enough. So what I want to do is take this apart and pay attention to the keys here. So we've got one key here, and then we can replace the one key. There's another key on the bottom, I'll get to that. 3 of them on this old style, and only 2 on the other style. And now here is the worm gear shaft, and I've made a decision to actually just go ahead and replace all of the bearings on this unit because I kind of thought about it, and one, they're not very expensive. Like, it didn't cost me that much money to buy new ones, and 2, this is particularly important for the Agitator shaft and the Planetary shaft, this guy right here. These old style bearings, they need to have grease around them. And that means the grease can, in theory, kind of trickle down past the seal. Whereas like if you had the new sealed style bearing, you wouldn't be having that problem with that because it's just a sealed bearing and there's no need for grease to be all around it. So that means you're going to have a less greasy mixer, right? So I'm going to go ahead and actually do all the bearings with the modern equivalents. The worm gear shaft and transmission shaft actually use the same kind of bearings. So they have this close style with the black face on it that goes on the bottom, and then up top you get the one with the metal face right here like this to match what's on the top of this thing here. Like even though these are like kind of sealed, they're still open on the bottom. They still need to get grease, and yeah, it's just gonna result in a more reliable machine. And it's like, you know, I've gotten this far. These bearings are original. They feel good, but like, come on, you know, just get it done. So here's our new bearing. Just put that right on the shaft there. And this one will hang out at the bottom of the mixer. And it even came with the new springy clippy thingy guys. So the bearing will sit on the side where these are pointing up, I believe. So I just drop this into the case first and then should be good to go. And unfortunately, I didn't really come to this realization until I had already ordered the new bearings for just the transmission worm gear shafts. So I can't replace this one yet because it's not in yet, but I can replace these 2. So that's good. Folks, if I got a treat for you. So I just kind of wanted to test fit everything. I just wanted to be sure I can show how it goes together, and I will show in a minute, but have I got a treat for you? I want you to take a look inside of here and just feast your eyes. So we're in speed 1 right now. So if I move my shifter around, this is speed 2 and this is speed 3, sort of. Here's something I've got going on right now. I've got this hooked up to a variac. So what I can do is I can bring on the voltage very carefully. So like I've got it in speed 1 right now. I'm going to bring the variac up a little bit so that the motor can spin, but slowly and not very powerfully, because we do not want the motor chewing up any gears in here. If you look in there, you've got speeds 2 and 3. You can kind of see them. Speed 3 is up above. That's that gear spinning really fast. And speed 2, okay, I just readjusted the camera. And then they got speed 2 down below. You can see them spinning at different speeds. Now, what you're not supposed to do with this mixer is change the speed when it's running. You are not supposed to do that. But I'm going to do it anyway because I understand how this works, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to put it in number 2 when I see the two teeth kind of right after they pass one another. So when I go right there, watch, you see it mesh? And then now, check it out, we're spinning in speed 2. And of course the motor has to work a little harder to spin in speed 2 because that's, you know, how gears work. So we're going to come right back up. And then check out speed 3. I'll engage it here. Not quite that. All right. And there's speed 3. Of course, we need more juice to run the motor. So if I take it out, it'll speed itself back up. And that's how I'm testing this, knowing that I'm not going to tear anything up. Because if I did make any mistakes, we would see, right? I actually did make one enormous mistake. And I'll show that to you when we're doing the actual reassembly. But I'm not going to do this until I get that new bearing in. So until then, we're going to have to wait a little bit. And we will also need to install the Planetary seal. But yeah, I mean, check it out. We got speed 1 right there. We got speed 2 right there. There it is. Back to speed 1. And there's speed 3. So we are back in business. All right, we are nearing the end. We are ready for assembly. So I initially bought this seal right here, and then when I bought the new bearings for the center shaft, I got this seal with it. And dimensionally they are the same. I don't think there's really much of a difference between either one of them, but this one's got a metal outside, so I'm going to use it instead of this one. Again, they're dimensionally the same. I checked them with the spacer. The diameters on the inside are the same, but I just like this one better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of new grease. I'll kind of put some of that up in here so we kind of have a nice easy entrance. I've got my bearing race driver. I'm going to switch to one that's bigger, so I bottom out flat on the face there. And that's a good noise there. All right, that's in. And before we forget, we're going to take some grease and we're going to put it on that seal so that it doesn't get torn up. Okay, I have more or less cleaned everything. I basically just took this brush and put some mineral spirits in a 5-gallon bucket. Just kind of went outside and scrubbed them all and then hit them all with compressed air to get all the old grease off, because we'd like to eliminate the old grease as much as we can, right? So anyways, that means it's time to start assembling. Very, very exciting. So what we'll do throughout this assembly is we will grease all of these guys because we don't want stuff going back together dry. So I'm just going to put some grease on everything. I'll get the gears toward the end, but I just want to have grease on all the places where, especially like these bronze bushings. Yeah, like this rides in here like this. So that feels really nice because there's, you know, grease in there. We want it to stay that way. We've got this washer, might be a thrust washer, so I want to get grease on both sides. And then our new bearing is going to go on there. Very nice. That feels great. And yeah, we want that washer to have the stepped edge up so that grease can kind of hang out inside of here. That's especially important for the old style bearing, but like I think I mentioned earlier, one of the main reasons I went with these new style bearings that are sealed is, one, you don't have to worry about lubricating them, and two, once this is in here and it's near the seal, grease isn't going to be able to pass through this like, like here's the old one. It's open on both ends. Grease can fall right through this, so we don't want that. It'll have our seal doing less work, right? So this section is good. Like the next thing is going to be this guy and its associated bits. You're going to look at these teeth on here. You see these guys, you're wanting to grab this guy, so you want the opposing tooth grabbable, right? So it goes on this way. If you were to put this on the other way, this would all just kind of slide and never engage and never lock. And then we've got to get ready for our driving key, which is this guy here. This was fun to get installed, and we're going to have to come up to the top of the mixer to watch that. But for these purposes, this guy, the one with the hole here, is not going to go with this key. The one without the hole is. So we'll take the one without the hole right here, and then here's this key here. We'll go like that. And yeah, here, like I said, I can make contact right there, and then when I go out, like see, that's the wrong way. And then once it makes contact like that, it'll spin as one. And before we head up there and start doing more assembly, what I'd like to do with this shaft in particular is, since I had this kind of dunked in mineral spirits and I didn't really take it apart, I want to take that apart now, again, like we did earlier, and just get some grease up in all these places here. Yeah, in fact, what I'll do is I'm just going to do compressed air on all of this, get all this out of here, and then we can put new grease on. Okay, we are back inside here, and hopefully you can see everything, because we're about to do final assembly. I put this one on earlier just to show how this is supposed to be, because we have to put it in with the shifter assembly that goes on here. Now before I do that, I'm just going to add some grease here. I'm going to take this end off, and that's where it's going to come out. I would use a grease gun if I had a brand new one, but I don't. So what I've done is I've just basically taken apart one of my grease guns for automotive stuff. And you can see I put the plunger in there, and then I'm just going to take the end with the cotter pin on it. And I'm just going to push, and we'll put some grease right over here, just so I can have it there to get my hand in it when I need to. There we go, there's grease. I did put grease inside of here with our little spring things, and I guess might as well get some underneath here first. Kind of coat a little bit down here. I'll get it in the places where I feel like it's going to be hard to get it. So now I think we're going to put the clutch in, and that's going to be a little tricky, because what we've got to do is we've got to get this driving pin to jive with our control arm here, right? So let's take some grease. Let's grease up this shaft right here so that we can slide nice and smooth. And then we'll take our shift fork, which is this guy right here. It's going to be obvious which way it goes. It goes with the open end to my right, basically, so it's going to go on like this. Make sure that rides nice and smooth. It does. So let's put, and again, let's make sure we've got this going the right way. We don't want it this way. We want it this way. So we'll put this right in here. Might as well grease that up a little bit. Slide this in, because this is going to slide around like that quite a bit. And then we'll drop this in. And we'll make sure we have the one with the hole, like I was talking about. I already forgot. The one with the hole goes with the control arm here. So let's do that. Okay, great, we've got that, but we've got to get our driving key inside of that slot there. How are we going to do that? Well, first of all, the driving key is going to go this way with the circular end on the bottom and this end up top. So let's rotate this, and basically what needs to happen is we got to kind of rock it in a way. So we start up here, and we kind of bring this in, and basically we're trying to get this this circular end right here. We want this in the hole of the, I don't know what you call this, the thing that the shift fork is holding onto. So this is probably the trickiest part. So, you know, we can't fit when we're like this, but when we're up here, we can kind of come up, and then we can come out while we're not on the shaft. And we can kind of do that, and then we can kind of push in, make sure that's there, and look at that. There it is. You can see that control arm moving now. I'm kind of trying to move it around. That's what we want right there. So we are in. We are good to go. We are ready for the next piece. And that next piece is going to be this gear, and we want the teeth going down so we can engage with that, right? But of course we'll take some grease, we'll put it in the bronze bushing, put some on here. Let's get a whole bunch of grease. Actually, we want to get that bushing in first, like this, I think. Yeah, that's proper. So there we are right there. Okay, and then we've got a key we've got to install again. That key goes in like so. I guess I can turn it. See, there's the key we have to install. And while we're at this point, I believe we want to add back our accessory drive guy right here. And then this, we want plenty of grease on it. We have this thrust washer here. Let's get a lot of grease behind that. There we are. So, squeeze it out. Then we can put some grease in here too. We want to get it in this feature here. So the housing, we want to get some grease in there too. We've got some grooves and whatnot that the grease likes to ride inside of. By the way, the inside of this was quite nasty when I cleaned it. So definitely take plenty of care in getting that cleaned up when you're doing yours. Oh god, the camera tripod's in the way. No. So there's that. That's in. That's going to be great. Should probably get those screws in while I have this like this, but maybe I'll worry about that later. Okay, next we're going to get our bevel shaft and transmission shafts in. I think I had this assembled wrong the other shot. This gear, this middle one here, this step is supposed to be facing up. I looked at the exploded view in the service manual. You want this step facing up. So what we're going to do with the transmission and bevel gear shafts, I've already greased them. So we're going to drop them in together like this. They'll get in there eventually. And then we'll get them to made up with their bearings on the inside. There we go. That feels good. I'll get some grease on our worm gear. Sorry, did I say bevel gear earlier? I meant to say this is the worm gear shaft. Yeah, I'll get some grease on these gears too, just so we can do an initial check, right, to make sure everything's working right. Our next gear is the bevel gear for the accessory drive. We're going to line it up with its respective key, like so. I think that's right. And then this gear needs to go on this way. It's very important that it goes on this way and not this way. Okay, there's going to be a slight error in continuity here because I made some awful mistakes. Okay, I'm very sorry about that, but just ignore the grease. The mistake I made was setting up the top gear with the key. So now we can put this gear back on with these teeth guys right here facing down so we can engage with the shift fork. This is third gear. So if we look in here, third gear is powered by this one right here off the transmission shaft, and it runs with this gear. The one below it is second gear, and then this little tiny guy is first gear. You know, because think about gear reductions. The smallest one off of here should be powering the biggest one on here for first gear. Anyways, now what we got to do is we got to put our bevel gear back in for the accessory drive, and that is keyed, and that's going to go with not the open end on the key, but the closed end right here. You see that right there? That's going to go on our key. So now, here's the important part that I missed, and it was very bad that I missed it. Here is our driving key, and this is actually for first gear. You see this little keyhole looking thing? This is going to sit on the end of the control arm. So can I bring this around? I can. So if you recall, actually I'll just take this back out for a minute so we can see it more easily. Our control arm is that piece that was broken. Remember we found that loose piece of metal? That's this guy right here. And this is the little tab that had broken off. There's a spring underneath that, right? So let's put this back on. There we are. So this little opening, this little slit right here, this key looking thing, that is going to sit on the control arm. And the way we're going to test that is we're going to shift into third. You see, we just pulled it in. That was actually second. So now we're back into first. It puts it back out. And now we're in third. And we're lifting it up because we're not fully assembled here. But you see how it goes in for second gear, comes back out for first gear. That's what we want. So I'll show you why that matters. Let's put it back in second so it's inside. And then let's take this gear, and it's important that it goes this side up and not the other side, because if you go this side, you see that pattern, like you've got these flats like this. That's the wrong way. You want the flats kind of moving along this way. That's how you put this on. So this is what makes first gear work, actually, is this thing. So let's shift back into first. See that gear come out? You see how that's about to grab it? So I'm turning the Planetary down there, and watch that bottom out. That key's going to bottom out right there on that gear. That's how first gear maintains its power. We had no first gear before with this thing because our driving key was, or our control arm for our driving key was broken. So this was just kind of floating in here, and it probably found its way all the way back here, because you can do this, but watch, it'll come back out. And now we're bottomed out there. Hopefully that's clear enough. That's a little clearer. Yeah, sorry about all the grease. But yeah, so that's that. That was one thing I messed up. I also messed up the orientation of these of this gear and found that out the hard way. If you do mess that up, you better use a variac because that motor will rip this stuff apart. Anyways, now we've got this top washer thing. It's got this pin here. It lines up with that hole. So I just put that in. And there's that. Then at this point, you would throw the rest of your grease in here. I would try to get the grease in areas where there are gears. Like, over here, this is just nothing happening over here, so I can probably move some of this over to a place where there are things happening. Like, our worm gears over here, that's going to want to be greased quite nicely. And then, over here we got the shifter. Probably don't need too much over there. Some more over there, We're basically reassembled up here. So the next thing we got to do is make sure we get our shims back on here for the top cover. Yeah, here's my shims right here. I got a little bit of old grease on them, but whatever. So yeah, now let's put our bearing cap back on. And that's going to be that big top piece we saw early on, which is this guy. We've replaced all these bearings. I had taken this little retainer off before, and now it's back on. I just haven't been taking it off because it just kind of keeps the bearings from popping out. So let's slide this back on. There is a dowel on this side. You want to make sure it's in that dowel, but it will kind of naturally just go into that. And there, we've got that. Our bearing came out a little bit. Let's push that in. And then I have this screw here from me using the slide hammer to get this out a million times. But I think this is finally it. So this is one of the screws for this case. So I'm going to put that one right there. And then we've got 3 more. You're going to want to be especially careful with this one if you don't have the opening covered up. Now we can get our nut and washer stack up back on here. Washer first. We find the nut with the 2 divots right here. That goes on top. So that means the one without the divots goes on the bottom. I think I'm actually going to do all of this by hand. We're going to, the impact was good for taking things apart, but I don't think we want to use the impact for putting things together here. So yeah, now I'm basically turning the Planetary down there. And we'll put this one back on up here. Okay, there's that. Then we'll take our wrench. And we will do the double nut to try to loosen the bottom one, but tighten the top one. And there's that, nice and tight. We will do the same thing over here for our worm gear and transmission shafts. And then we've got this bearing cap here that we want to put on. We'll have this hole exposed over here. And then we'll have these 3 for putting our screws in. Okay, yeah, I over tightened these. I'm really surprised how finicky this thing is. Like, you really do not want to over tighten this stuff. I just over tightened these 2 right here. And like normally on the variac I can get it to run at like 40 volts. And it wouldn't move until I turned it up to 80 volts. So let's try 40 again. And yeah, even that is too tight. So I'm actually running power through it right now. I'm going to loosen. Does that do it? Does that do it? Yeah, see? There we go. So you don't want the transmission shaft too tight. And there it's even loosening itself a little bit. Let's let this one self-tighten. No, that's the wrong way. Yeah, that's wild. Like, watch, I can finger tighten that. I can get it to run that much slower. And then if I loosen it a little bit, well, that was tighten. Let's loosen. That's crazy. So let's just let that tighten to about right there. And that's as much as we need there. And then this one, that's loose. Kind of tough to tighten it when it's going the wrong way. But let's just do that there. And now let's work on our double nuts. So you really don't want that bottom nut to be tight. You want it to be easy. You just want it keeping things together. You just want it keeping everything in one place. You're not doing any favors getting that thing tightened. Man, who knew a variac would be so handy for setting the torque on these things? So yeah, I basically have it at, mine's at 50 volts actually. And yeah, I just set the torque based on whether it'll let it turn at this low voltage. So let's bring her back up again. Yeah, looks good to me. Let's put this cap on. And then we'll try going through the speeds. All right, first speed. Sounds really good. Second speed. That's working. And third speed. And that crackling sound is the grease kind of getting its place known down below, kind of thing. See, it's going away slowly. This is awesome. I love it. We'll get this guy screwed back in here. And then we'll add our shifter back. We'll have it on speed 1 as we put it in here. We've got some extra assembly to do down here on the Planetary area. So how about we start getting to that. Okay, so this is the part that I'm not quite sure about. How much grease do I put in here? When I took this apart, I didn't find very much. So what I basically did is I just kind of took my finger and made it so that I have grease inside of each tooth kind of thing. And I did the same thing for the actual Planetary here, and I'm just kind of cleaning up little bits here. The manual refers to a lubrication manual for this part. I can't find that. I don't really know, but I don't think this is too bad of a thing. Anyways, next things we need to do are we need to put our key back in. I just wanted the key in sight here so we can see, and I think it's this curved end going up because that seems to be how most of this stuff has been machined. Okay, there's our key. Next is our spacer. So for this spacer, you can see where it's very grooved right here from the old seal. We're just going to flip this over so that our new seal is riding on a nice smooth machined surface. So we'll just line her up with the key and shove her up in there. Okay, and then we're going to take our actual Planetary assembly and we will shove that up in there and make sure our keyhole here is lined up with our key in the shaft. Oh, little paper towel bit. And there's that. And then we've got a kit here. It comes with all the parts you need for this. So I think the first is this felt washer. It goes first. Then you have this metal washer. Then you have this small nut. And then you have this acorn nut. So I think I'll go ahead and start doing that stack up here. See if I'm supporting this. We have fiber. We have metal and skinny nut. And then we've got acorn nut. Hey, it's me from the future. Do not over tighten this nut. Do not over tighten this nut, because what will happen is you will bottom out this assembly on the second gear on the center shaft, and this will want to become one with second gear when second gear is supposed to be spinning freely. And then when you go into third gear, it'll try to be in both second and third at the same time, and it'll just end really badly for you. So do not over tighten that nut. You want to tighten it just so you're not getting second gear. Okay. Even that might have overdone it, actually. Yeah, that's not good. So I've already over tightened it somehow. Yeah, see? Like, I should be able to rotate that freely-ish, and I can't. Okay, so now that's loose. Then that's looser. Yeah, see? You want to be able to do that. If you can't do this, you have over-tightened the nut. Do not over-tighten this nut. There. Perfect. Then we take our stainless beauty ring, or whatever you want to call it, and she hangs out right there. Alright, first things first, let's just leave it in first. We'll bring up the voltage with the variac. Make sure it's working, right? Might make a few weird, like noises like that, because we're getting the grease going. But, yeah, that's great. How about we give it the full 120 volts? All right, that is 120 volts. So we're absolutely running in first gear. Let's take note of what that looks like. Let's go down to second gear. Just feels different. All right, let's see. Yeah. That is second gear, all right. I don't know what that noise is. It sounds like grease just kind of making its way through. Hopefully. And then third gear, let's try that. Okay, that's not right. That's not right. Something's wrong. Okay, so after some further trial and error, I think I got this thing working correctly. So let's just take a quick look here. We'll turn this on, we're in first gear. We're still at the reduced voltage. So, it's going pretty slow. I can put it into second since we're at such a low speed. You saw it kind of jump into second there. I'll take it back out. Then I can put it into third. And there you see it go into third. So before, a few things were happening. One, it was getting all jammed up in third. And I could actually just let this Planetary spin in there. It wasn't catching first gear. So let's bring this up to full voltage real quick. So there, it likes that. That's first gear. So we can turn that off. We'll put it in second gear. And actually, what was happening before with this mixer is we were always in second gear. We were actually never in first gear. It was always second gear. First gear is what we lost. Now let's try third gear. Bring it into third. Yeah, we're going. We're hauling. And it sounds good. We had that weird clicking before. So I'm really glad it doesn't do that anymore, because that was a little scary. But yeah, I'm quite happy with this. We are back in business. Now, there's two key things that I missed to get here, and I kind of covered it up in the editing, or at least I planned to. The first thing is down here. You'll notice I don't have the acorn nut on, and that's because you don't want to tighten this all the way. See, what was going on before was when I had this tightened all the way, what that did is it basically had the bearing, or like something in here, it had it make contact with the gear for second. And I'll show a video of it moving, like that gear on the bottom, that's second gear. That is supposed to be moving freely in that bronze bushing, and then when you do this, that's when it grabs a hold of second gear with those kind of teeth in the gears, right? We move our shift fork up and down to engage with the teeth of third up here and engage with the teeth of second down here. So basically what was happening was, in first gear, it was just going really fast because the second gear was basically one with the shaft when it was supposed to be spinning freely. So that was messing up first gear, and then when you went into third gear, it bogged everything down because it was trying to fight that stuck second gear on the shaft. So that's what bogged the motor down so bad in third gear. So you do not tighten this nut. I really wish I had found that earlier, because you may notice this thing is absolutely covered in grease up here right now, and that's for me basically taking it apart and putting it back together like 5 times, and there's grease all over the table and stuff. You know, probably should have waited till later to grease it, but I was feeling confident, I guess. Anyways, do not tighten that. Rather, make sure your second gear is spinning freely on that shaft when it's not engaged by the shifter. The next thing I had trouble with was actually first gear. Like I said, I was able to move this around like this, and you'll see I wasn't able to hit that. And that's due to that funny gear up top. That key that had like the little keyhole looking thing in it, I did not realize that keyhole part is actually supposed to slip into that top end of that control arm. And the way the control arm works is it lets this engage when you're in first gear. I showed that moving in a video earlier, so I kind of explained that, but that was big mistake number 2. Yeah, we're finally here. We've got it going. Very exciting. So I'm going to, actually haven't recorded the correction bits yet. I'm going to go back. I got to take this all apart so I can show you what's going on inside, but you've already seen that by now, because I know a good number of you are probably going to find this in search, and you're wanting to know what's going on in here. People who are watching this when it first comes out, it's going to be people who watch me. They're looking for entertainment, but I know that this is going to end up as a suggested video in search results later on, because I've seen it happen with a number of my other videos where it's not relevant. Well, the subject, this, is not relevant to what I normally do, which is, you know, that stuff up there. Which, by the way, if you came here and you like this stuff, I do lots of videos on things like this, vintage stereos. So, yeah, let's wrap up here. So at this point, I'd say we've done a pretty decent rebuild, honestly. We've replaced both seals, all the bearings, the motor brushes, a little extra stuff that came with. Got a new control arm. Some of the things aren't pictured there because I think I threw them away. I would have liked to keep them so I can get them all together, but yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter that much. But anyways, let's remember this shot from, well, for you, probably an hour and a half ago. Let's come right back here and let's check this out. So I'm going to come off of my variac, and I'm going to go right into wall power. And we're going to run this thing. So there we go. Let's try first gear. Very nice. And yep, that's working. Sometimes I'd be able to catch that and just kind of hold it in place because we didn't have the driving key set up right. So now let's go to speed 2. There it is. And now let us go to speed 3. Love it. You love to see it. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun with this. Certainly a challenge, great learning experience. If you haven't noticed by now, I'm not a Hobart technician. I've never seen one of these before. I just saw it when I was at the customer, and they told me it was broken. I thought it'd be a cool opportunity to fix this. And again, the parts suppliers for this video, they did not sponsor this in any way. That's just where we bought the parts. They offer a really good service. I had nothing but good experiences with them. So yeah, hope this helps you, or hope you had fun watching, and I will see you in the next one.
Maybe wondering how we found ourselves in this position. Let me tell you, this thing is incredibly heavy.
Somebody isn't strong enough to help me.
Womp womp.
Oh boy.
A graceful landing.
Might be too tall. Now let's see.
Oh God.
Okay, it appears appears I will need to maybe take out a link or something. Yeah, we'll do that. Did you feel that? Round two.
Lift.
Work it. Work it. Oh yeah. Just have to.
Really close to the glass.
Yeah, I know.
Right,
I'm gonna
okay.
lower it and shimmy it. And then I'm gonna lay it down so that it doesn't. Let's see. I have to. Down. There we go.
Wow.
And it left its mark. Nice tear in my carpet. But, so it's
There you go.
amazing this didn't happen in the other 35 years this thing has been in existence. Anyways, yep. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.
Is there anything a Volvo can't do?
And did you see the suspension sag when that went in there? And this has the heavier duty springs in it too. Like, this thing is no joke.
No joke.